Joining me right now to dissect what we just heard from Sean Spicer and also Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. We have Senior Director of Research at Bustle.com, Jessica Tarlov, and Evan Siegfried, the author of GOP GPS. All right, I want to start first with the goals that this administration is outlining. Steve Mnuchin saying 3% economic growth. I'd kind of like to see 5, but, you know, beggars can't be choosers here. Yeah, I think it's too greedy. You know, Trump talked originally about 4%. Now it seems to be about managing expectations because they kind of screwed this one up on health care, right? They made everybody think that they could get health care reform done fast. It's taking longer than anybody anticipated. The same thing may be true of tax reform. So now when you talk about economic growth, is part of this managing expectations, Evan? Yeah,
you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So you'd rather go out and tell the people, you know, we might get 3%, or tax reform, we might get it done, we think we'll get it done by the end of the year. So if you exceed that, it's only a bonus, even if you know that you're going to exceed that. It's a strategy in terms of messaging.
The other thing that's interesting, Jessica, is he's talking about a middle-class tax cut. This is going to be really, really good for the middle class. But as I've pointed out over and over again, you know, you got to give the tax cuts to the people that actually pay it, and roughly half of Americans pay no federal income tax at all. So when you talk about the middle-class tax cut, you want to give it to them, but you also got to be realistic here in that you got to give it to the people who are actually paying taxes in the first place.
Yeah, but I think it's very smart. It's taking language out of the Bernie Sanders playbook here, which is to always talk about the middle class and also the lower classes. Wealthy people who are going to also get a huge tax break here know that. Yes, they do. There's no way Donald Trump and Steve Mnuchin are not going to be cutting a break for their buds. That is happening. So I don't think that Mnuchin feels like...
But again, I would say, you know, the 1% and the top 15% are contributing by far the most in the world.
Right, and they will get their tax break. Donald Trump did make that clear. Steve Mnuchin has made that clear. If you look at at least the early plans, we don't know what it's going to look like in its final form. Yeah. But this was a very smart messaging move, I think, there, because the takeaway from that is Donald Trump is interested in making sure that the playing field is leveled for the middle class.
And that's part of the selling point all along, right? I mean, I think that this is a big part of why he succeeded, why he was able to go in and take those Rust Belt states, because there are a lot of middle-class Americans that feel as though Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party no longer represented their interests. Another thing he brought up, simplification of the tax code. This has been, a big thing for Donald Trump, and it's crazy. I mean, we were doing our taxes, my husband and I, recently, and we're filling them out, and it's insane, right? And you know, you just
if you want to be smart about it, it's insane. If you want to, you know, if you're not interested in
no, it's insane for anyone. I think that, you know, the people that have profited most off of this ridiculous tax system with all these various deductions, et cetera, H&R Block. Right? I mean, it's the accounting companies that really have made the most off of this. So Donald Trump talks about wanting to put those guys out of business by simplifying the tax code. Yet, let's not forget, you got the swamp there that's going to make it a little harder to do that.
Well, I think if you printed out the tax code and put it all in one box and dropped it on somebody, it would be considered assault with a deadly weapon. That's how big it is. And it's just so confusing.
Where do you come up with these? I feel like every show you've got one.
If you read the tax code, you can't make heads or tails of it. It's thousands upon thousands of pages of gobbledygook and nonsense that contradicts one another. And I think that we need to simplify it because not every American can afford even an H&R Block. They need to be able to go out and tell the federal government, this is how much I made, this is how much I owe you, this is what I'm deducting.
Or to do it on TurboTax and know that they're getting all the deductions that they're entitled to.
Right. All right, let's turn to the business tax cut, because that's been another biggie. I think that you can get some joint partisanship here. Yeah. I think, you know, you get $2 trillion sitting overseas right now, working for everybody else's economy, not working for ours. We need to bring that money back on shore. That's something he's intending to do. And we need to make ourselves more competitive. I mean, how is it right that we have, when you factor in local and state taxes, we've got the highest tax rate in the world for corporations? How are you going to inspire new businesses to be here, Evan, with that kind of tax code?
Well, you use the tax revenue you get from overtaxing people to put out ads that just say, look how wonderful it is to open your business. But you actually really have to drop tax rates on corporations and small businesses and small business owners who file as individuals even though they own a small business. And President Trump on the campaign trail absolutely talked about doing that, dropping it almost 20% on small business owners who do that. And that will really stimulate not only every small business owner, but every millennial.
Do you think that's really going to happen, though, Jessica? Let me ask you your thoughts on that, because, you know, you look at the sort of hard left of the party right now, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, they're not going to like this. They're not going to like a corporate tax. They would rather just take everything they can from corporations. Somehow they do forget that corporations actually employ Americans. But how is that going to fly with them?
Well, I don't know how 15% is ever going to fly, because I think that's Donald Trump's number right now. I think that where the real issue will be the tax rate on that repatriated money. So what we tax it when we bring it back in. So if they can find some way to make that a palatable number for Democrats, and I think centrist Democrats will be all over this. We know if Clinton was in office, she would have done the same thing. She would have cut corporate rates, I think, once she got there. So I think that if you can make that number palatable for the left, then you can do this. And I think it's a smart move, especially if we're going to be emphasizing policies like Buy American, Hire American, things like that. If it's really an America First policy here.
Let's make it easy to do business. Let's make everyone want to do business here in the United States of America. Evan, good to see you. Jessica, thank you so much. Don't go